It's Mark and Pete.
Hello, and welcome to the show. More colourful conversations with Mark and Pete. This is the show dedicated to religion, politics, and business. Each week, clergyman Pete and businessman Mark will tackle an important topic. Well, this week, we discuss Mark Zuckerberg and giving away billions. In this world of excess, we see great opulence all around us. Millionaires, billionaires, in fact, spending more and more on exotic goods. And yet, recently, Mark Zuckerberg, who is the founder of Facebook, has defended the unusual company structure chosen for the eye-catching philanthropic venture launched to celebrate the birth of his daughter. Well, what does this mean? Well, Mr. Zuckerberg will give away 99% of his stake in Facebook. At the moment, that's worth around $45 billion, a staggering amount of money. So, is this something that all billionaires should be doing? Should millionaires be doing it? And in fact, should we all be doing it? Well, with me today is clergyman Pete. So, Pete, what are you doing with your billions?
Well, business and Mark, I'm of course investing them in your business. What else?
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that this puts it into perspective. When you have excess money, what are you going to do with it? Actually, I do have a little bit of excess money, and I don't know what to do with my 3.5 pence. Sorry, and a 30 bit that I've got in my pocket. I mean, deciding what to give away money that's excess seems like an easy decision, but it ends up not being easy because you can always do with more, right?
Well, this is true. But of course, Mr. Zuckerberg is not unique in this scenario because there are many other well-known entrepreneurs who have given away lots of money. So if we look at certain people such as Bill Gates, he's already donated billions of dollars to worthy causes, whether that's in healthcare, education, and many other ventures. In fact, even entrepreneurs such as Warren Buffett has also contributed staggering amounts of money in the billions, whether that's also in education to resolve extreme poverty, even actually investing in areas like information technology to help bring wealth to business. So what do you do with your money? Well, I'm going to just sort of set up my thoughts on this, which is that when you reach a point in life and you have, as Pete has already highlighted, got excess, what do you do with it? Well, this is a little poem called More or Less. In this age of excess, millionaires like to impress as they decide to overdress, wearing jewels with finesse, and live to an exclusive address to reflect their career progress that brings wealth and success through, perhaps I should express, that their lives, I guess, are equally full of stress. So when I reassess the world is a mess, I must confess I'm still happy with less. So, in actual fact, when you do reach that point of having a staggering amount of money, such as Pete with his 3.5 pence, I mean, what are you going to do with it? Should you actually reach a point where you say to yourself, I've got enough now, I've got to give it away? But what does giving away actually mean? So, let's try and define this. So, in your opinion, Pete, what should people be doing with their money?
Well, if you're looking at giving money away, you can make a decision about what is a good cause. Now, the problem with that is, if you're just following your own personal agenda, you could be, depending on how well informed you are, what your moral compass is like, you could be actually encouraging things that are immoral. For example, I'm one of the billionaires that we just mentioned has been giving away money to support abortion, believing that this is very good because it's helping women with their health. However, of course, if you take the moral decision that pretty much all not quite all, but pretty much all abortion is wrong, what you're doing is actually encouraging murder of unborn babies. So you can end up skewing the way that the world operates if you're very, very rich by what you give away to. So you need to be very careful what you give away to. Giving away is a good thing, but you need to be careful what you give away to. But there's another way of doing it. There's another way to approach this giving, which I would have thought would occur to such people who've made their money from their business expertise, from their brilliance in running a business or coming up with ideas for business. They could do the same and put money into it.
Yes.
They could be launching new ventures, which then create even more wealth. They could
Yes.
be using it in line with what they're good at. They may not be good at selecting which charity to give to, but they may be brilliant at setting up new businesses. So I would suggest that you with your excess money, you do something. It could be giving it away, but it could be investing it, or it could be building something. Do something in line with your area of expertise, so that you use the money well.
Well, that's interesting because Mark Zuckerberg's company that he's actually setting it up. So let's qualify this, that he's not just simply giving the money away. What he's doing is he's ring fencing it in a new charitable organization, which primarily is aimed at advancing human potential and the promoting of equality for children and the next generation. That makes sense. But this isn't new, is it? Because in actual fact, if we look through history, there are many, many wealthy entrepreneurs who have done a lot more than just simply giving money away. So here's a good example. In the United Kingdom, back in the 19th century, John Cadbury, who was an entrepreneur, a proprietor of a small manufacturing business, which we now know as a chocolate manufacturer. Now, he was based in Birmingham, which is based in the Midlands in the United Kingdom. Now, as part of the cornerstone of his philosophy, he not only gave away money, but he effectively created a community. Now, he was originally a wealthy Quaker. He came from a family of wealthy Quakers. But the idea behind his philosophy to business was to allow workers to have better rights, to enable them to be housed, and also to be able to give that money to a business that would not only thrive both within the UK, but also eventually that became an international organization and a big brand. But essentially it was that the workers had rights. So he wasn't just taking the money for himself or his own immediate family. He was providing a legacy for an entire region, which eventually became a global brand. Now, that's something which is slightly different than just simply giving money to one cause. It was something that really was much more embedding into a community. And that sort of fits to what we've been saying, which is localism is something which we see as a great opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
By building up investment in a community, you're building skills, you're building jobs, and that in itself helps to sort of promote good entrepreneurialism.
Yes, I mean, I think that giving to charity is best done locally, best done giving to someone that you've got that relationship with the person that you're giving to. And the reason that it's good to have a proper relationship with the person or people or organization you're giving to is then you know when to stop or when to change how you give. People can become dependent, organizations can become dependent on giving and reorganize themselves around such giving, such that they're not being, in terms of organizations, not being lean with their use of resources. And in terms of people, they can become lazy. They can become de-skilled. They can come to rely on handouts. And that's not the purpose of charitable giving. The purpose of charitable giving is help the people who are in difficulty and then help them up into a productive and fulfilling life. So this is why I think that the localism thing that here at Mark and Pete were always banging on about really, really helps. Give to charity and where possible, give locally, but that can mean geographically locally, but it can also mean locally within your sphere of influence or knowledge. So you give into an area that you know about. If you're a health professional, give into a health charity. You know that whether it's being used wisely. But
Yes.
I think that that oil billionaire who runs or owns the Hillcorp Energy organization, he had a slight twist on this giving in that he just gave an extra bonus because he'd earned so much money. Jeffrey Hildebrand, he 5 years ago wanted to achieve the goal of doubling the oil and gas production in his company, and so he gave everyone the choice of $35,000 in cash or $50,000 towards a new car, and
Yes.
the people worked hard. It's a good way of getting people to work hard. No, he didn't have to give that. He wasn't say you can have this if you do it. He gave it as a present, and then he gave the output increased by double again this year, despite the downturn this year. So he doubled the bonus and gave them this year, $100,000 each. Now that hasn't made that much a dent in his fortune. He apparently, according to the Forbes report on this, he has $5.9 billion in wealth. He'll only have about $5.8 billion now, so that's still enough to live on. He's not going to be
No.
not going to be destitute. But the thing is, in giving away a lot, he has made more. In that his fortune has trebled since he first started giving away the bonuses in 2010. So it's helped him. But what he's done then, he's given away more as he's earned more. So I think that's an interesting example. He's giving to his own employees.
I think that one of the things that we should highlight here is that we're talking about people, of course, who are world famous. Many, of course, are long gone. But the classic one, of course, for somebody who earned a lot of money through his own scientific ventures was Alfred Nobel. And, of course, as we very well know today, that there are Nobel Prizes for different subject matters. But, of course, that sort of philanthropic approach to taking money where it can be used for good causes and recognition of good causes. But of course, those are people who have enormous wealth. What about on a slightly reduced scale, where people have more than enough to meet their means? But what should they be doing with their wealth? So, say, for example, if you're on an average income, so in the United Kingdom, that's just over £20,000. But let's say, for example, you earned 30,000 or 40,000. That's probably more than you need to keep your family. Well, but what would your advice be, or what does the Bible say about giving away to charity?
Well, this is my thoughts on the advice of Scripture. I think that Scripture gives a sort of model of giving 10%, which was the amount to be given to God, to be given into the temple as a first fruits of your harvest. So it wasn't actually giving money; it was giving the first bit of your harvest, 10% of it, and that's often used in churches as a model. You should give 10%, give to the church and to mission. Now, I follow that myself, and I think it is a good way of operating. But it's not meant to be a maximum. If anything, it's a minimum. It's a guideline, and you can give more. Of course, give more. Generosity is seen as being a good thing, and it's the interesting thing about it is that this giving to charity in the Bible is seen as something that comes from your heart. So it's not you have to give this, you must give this. That wouldn't be generous then, would it? It says in Luke chapter 6, verse 38, "Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, and be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." So if you're generous in giving, you will, in some ways, receive generously back. God will bless you as you receive back because you give so generously. I say in some way because you may give money, that may not be what you get back. You may be paid back in something else, but you will receive back more than you give. Give in good measure, you receive in wonderfully good measure. And so the Bible encourages giving, but encourages giving that you cheerfully give, that you want to give. So it doesn't encourage, for example, supporting all different causes through taxation. And there is a tendency to do that within the model of politics we have here in Britain and in other countries which follow a similar system, in that there's a tendency to think that when people are in need, the government must sort that out. Now, what that ends up being is the opposite of being charitable. If you're charitable and generous, you give out of your own generosity, you give your own money. Whereas the government, which has no money of its own, simply what it's taxed from the people in the country and from the belongings and property in the country. So therefore, it's giving other people's money. That's not being generous, is it? Giving other people's money. If it were, then I'd be brilliant at it. I could take your money and give it away any time, Mark.
Oh, thank you very much. But I think that it's important to recognize that somebody like Mark Zuckerberg has clearly earned his wealth at a relatively young age.
Yes.
It's quite unusual because if you look at other entrepreneurs, we've mentioned people like Warren Buffett, who perhaps have taken a little bit longer to get to that point of being a billionaire. But ultimately, you don't have to be a billionaire or a millionaire to be charitable. And as Pete said, is that 10% is a guide. If your income is variable, of course, that may not always be possible, and you might decide to choose to give to charity in lump sums, and that's another option. But also it's about time as well. We're talking about money as being one measure of giving, but also there's giving of time. I think that's important to mention, that it's not just about putting the dollar down, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, you have lots of things that you have control of. They're your possession. Time is one, money is one, abilities.
Yes, your expertise, for example.
Another one, yeah. And that's still giving. That shouldn't be thought of as lesser in any way than giving financially.
Yes. Well then, listeners, so we welcome your input on this matter. So what do you think Pete should do with his excess £3? Or is it £3? Have I given that away too much? Have I busted the bank there?
3.5 and a threepenny bit.
And a threepenny bit, of course. Yeah, so listeners, why not let us know what you think about this? Was Mark Zuckerberg right to give away his billions? Should he give away more? What do you think about other people? So why not log on to www.markandpete.com and let us know. Fill out the contact form, and we'd love to hear from you. So join us again next time for more colourful conversations with Mark and Pete.